Post 1, I am a 29-year-old male, very boring with money in a way that makes me happy. I keep a zero-based budget. I track every expense. I make my own coffee and bring lunch in a little container that does not leak. When my rent went up last year, I decided to rent a two-bedroom and find a roommate so I could keep saving toward a down payment. The apartment is clean, quiet, and in a building with strict rules. No subletting without approval. No extra occupants without being on the lease. Quiet hours posted in the elevator. It felt like a place designed for the way I live. The plan was to split rent evenly and utilities in proportion to use. I am the only person on the lease because the landlord, Ms. Patel, said she could approve a co-tenant later if their credit cleared. I met Cal through a friend of a friend. He is mid-30s, charming in a way that makes people forgive lateness. And he said all the right things. He needed 1 month to get his credit squared away, could sleep on the couch for that first month, and would sign an addendum as soon as Ms. Patel approved him. He offered to set autopay for half the utilities immediately and to send half the rent by the first each month. He called himself a good hang. I said yes because I believed in grown men keeping promises. For the first 2 weeks, it was fine. Cal was messy in a scatter pattern, but he Venmo'd me the exact rent amount on the first, and he brought paper towels home without being asked. Then on a Tuesday, he told me his cousin Ari needed a place to crash for 2 weeks due to a lease overlap. He said it would actually help because Ari would chip in for groceries. I said 2 weeks was fine, as long as Ari did not bring in other people, and we kept the place quiet. I also told Cal we needed to keep Miss Patel in the loop, and that no one could stay beyond the 2 weeks without approval. He nodded and called me responsible like it was a compliment. Week 3 arrived. Ari was still there. A new lock had appeared on the hall closet that holds my cleaning supplies. My labeled groceries kept vanishing. I came home to find a parking citation on my windshield because someone had parked in my spot overnight and moved in the morning before I left for work. The utility app showed a spike that looked like a heater running all night with windows open. I asked Cal when Ari was heading out. Cal said I was being intense and that it is his half, so if he wants to have family over, he can. I reminded him I am the leaseholder and the lease says no extra occupants. He said the landlord never checks and that I should relax because everyone is struggling. I felt something in me give, like a rope stretched too far. I do not like conflict. I also do not like pretending numbers are not numbers. I texted Miss Patel and asked, in neutral language, whether anyone besides me was approved to reside in the unit. She wrote back quickly, "Only you. Any additional occupant requires written approval. Violation fines are charged to the leaseholder." My stomach dropped. I told Cal that Ari needed to leave within 48 hours or be submitted for approval. With rent adjusted and utilities formalized, I said I was not comfortable carrying the risk in the fines. Cal called me landlord light and said I was power tripping over a friend in need. He said he would cover more utilities to make it even. I said it is not about even, it is about the lease and my name on every bill. He said I was gatekeeping housing. Meanwhile, Ari's presence shifted from cousin on a couch to a person with a shelf in the bathroom and a second toothbrush and a pair of sneakers by the door. 2 nights later, I woke at 1:40 a.m. to loud voices. A third person had joined them for a weekend and was playing music like the walls were soundproof. The downstairs neighbor, Marco, texted me a screenshot of the building. Quiet hours sign and a single sentence. Please handle. The next morning, I printed the clause that bans subletting and extra occupants. I taped a notice to cure on Cal's door, which felt dramatic but also like the only way to make my point in writing. It listed 3 items. 1, no unauthorized occupants. 2, quiet hours. 3, utilities share due by Friday. I included the exact amounts and the date. I also sent the same notice by email because paper gets lost behind doors. Cal flipped. He sent a long text about hardship and community and how I did not understand what it is like to hustle. He said he would be hosting his living room to cover costs, then sent a photo of a stranger with a suitcase standing in our living room and a caption that read, "We are all just trying to make it." My heart started thudding in that way, where you hear your own pulse in your ears. I changed the Wi-Fi password and moved the router into my room. I added a smart lock to my bedroom because my laptop and documents live there. And I work in finance where I sign confidentiality agreements. I did not lock anyone out of common areas. I locked my door because my boundaries are not a debate topic. I called Ms. Patel and told her everything. She said she appreciated the paper trail and that she would send a reminder of the lease terms. She also said any fines for violations land on me as the leaseholder, which I already knew but needed to hear out loud to justify the pit forming in my stomach. She asked for names and dates and said if there was any evidence of short-term rental activity, she would involve the city. The thought that my home might be in an app made me feel ridiculous and naive at the same time. I do not know how to explain the feeling of watching your careful budget get dragged across a floor by someone who thinks rules are just vibes. I took this place so I could save. I planned for stability. I did not plan for a man who calls an apartment his half like it is a campsite and calls me controlling for pointing at the lease he signed an acknowledgement for. I told Cal again, in writing, that Ari needed to leave or get approved. I said no guests beyond 2 nights unless I am informed in advance. I said no more strangers with suitcases. He wrote back that I should try compassion and that the landlord never checks. Ms. Patel emailed 10 minutes later asking to schedule a compliance walkthrough. I feel like the bad guy because I drew a line about rules I did not write. I also feel like the only adult in a room where everyone wants my credit score to absorb their choices. I am meticulous with money because it keeps me safe. Right now, I feel like I handed my safety to a man who says being careful is cruel. Am I the jerk for demanding that Ari leave within 48 hours or get formally approved with a rent share, and for changing my Wi-Fi and adding a smart lock to my bedroom after Cal started bringing in guests with suitcases? Comment 1. Not the jerk. You are the leaseholder and on the hook for fines. Document everything, send all notices by email, and loop the property manager in no more partial payments. Comment 2. Put all future contact in writing. If Cal refuses to cure, escalate to the manager. Smart lock on your room is basic self-protection when strangers show up at 1:40 a.m. Update 1. Some people asked what the lease actually says and how strict Ms. Patel is. The lease is plain. No subletting, no short-term rentals, no additional residents without written approval. Quiet hours 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Fines get posted to the leaseholder's account. That is me. I do not like being the hall monitor. I also do not like discovering rules only when money leaves my account. After I posted the notice to cure on Cal's door and emailed the same to create a paper trail, Ms. Patel replied in under an hour. She thanked me for documenting and said no one named areas approved. She warned me that unauthorized occupants and short-term rentals trigger fines that are charged to my ledger. She copied a building-wide memo reminding residents of the rules. There was a line in the memo I cannot stop hearing. Violations may result in termination of tenancy. I live within my means because it keeps me safe. Reading that sentence made my palms sweat. Cal transferred his half of rent that afternoon, short by $300. He wrote a note that said he would send the rest after a gig. Utilities were due the same day. His half did not arrive. Ari was still in the living room. A third person appeared Friday night with a suitcase and a rolling carry-on. I asked who that was. Cal said a weekend guest. I asked if the guest would be gone by quiet hours. Cal smiled like I was adorable and said not to be a cop. At 1:40 a.m., the downstairs neighbor, Marco, texted me a polite message about bass thumping through his ceiling. I went into the living room and found a couch party. I asked them to turn it down and reminded them of quiet hours. Cal rolled his eyes and told his guests I was funny when I tried to be serious. The music went low. 20 minutes later, it was loud again. I lay in bed counting the cost of conflict avoidance like it was a subscription I did not remember signing up for. At 8 a.m. Saturday, I sent Cal a second written notice. Bullet points. No unauthorized occupants. No weekend guests beyond 2 nights. Utilities share due by 5 p.m. The fines that hit my ledger would be added to his share, not absorbed by me. I told him I would loop Ms. Patel in on all future violations, and that continued breach could result in termination. For the unit, I meant the words. I still felt like a villain as I typed them. By noon, Cal announced that he had a solution. He would airbed the living room for short stays to cover money. He said that way I would not have to nag him for utilities. He said he would take great photos and write a witty description. He sent me a screenshot of a draft listing that showed my art on the wall and the words sleep up to 4 in a central, stylish home, I am not a person who yells. My voice went high and thin like the air at altitude. I said absolutely not and cited the exact lease clause. He said hosts are everywhere, and landlords never know. He called me gatekeeping housing. He called himself a community resource. He called the suitcase people travelers. I forwarded the screenshot to Ms. Patel. 10 minutes later, she called me. She was calm in the way people are when they have seen this before. She said she had already found an active listing with my building's exterior visible in 2 photos in the distance to our train stop listed in the description. She sent me the link. There was my couch. There was my floor lamp. There was a photo of our hallway mirror with my coat visible in the corner. The listing had gone live that morning while I was writing bullet points. She said she would issue a formal cure or quit to me as leaseholder and report the unit to city STR enforcement if a booking appeared. She said to treat the living room as common and to keep my bedroom secured. I felt sick and also strangely grateful to be told what the world was. At 2 p.m., a stranger with a suitcase was photographed by Marco while trying to enter his downstairs apartment with a code that did not work. Marco sent me the photo and asked if this was one of ours. I confirmed it was. The stranger tried my door a minute later. I stood in the entryway and said the booking was not valid. The stranger looked irritated and said they would leave a bad review. I said there would be no review to leave because this listing violates building policy and the city I do not like confrontation. My heart was a drum. I sent the time-stamped photos to Ms. Patel. She replied with a formal cure or quit for unauthorized subletting, nuisance, and violation of quiet hours. 10 days to cure or vacate, fines posted to my ledger. Cal paid the missing $300 that evening with a note that said I was bleeding him dry. He did not send utilities. He posted on his social that I am greedy and gatekeeping housing during a crisis. A handful of his friends commented that I should let people sleep on floors if I am so rich I track a budget. Someone found my neighborhood forum and called me out by first name for being a landlord in spirit. I felt my chest go tight. I reminded myself to keep every important sentence in writing and every choice tied to a rule I did not invent. I changed the Wi-Fi 2 days ago to stop weekend strangers from using my network and eating my data cap. I moved the router to my room so I can secure it. I added a smart lock to my bedroom door because my laptop and documents are tied to client work and my identity has value to me. I am not locking a person out of shelter. I am locking my door so my things do not walk out while a host describes my couch as cozy. I am telling myself this like a mantra because guilt is a language I learned young and I slip into it easily. Ms. Patel scheduled a compliance walkthrough for Tuesday morning. She asked me to be present and for Cal to attend. She said city enforcement may contact me. She told me to funnel all communication to email, so there is a record. I printed everything and labeled a folder with dates. I am trying to be a calm person with papers, even while my stomach is a fist. A small part of me still wants to pretend this is a misunderstanding and that compassion will fix it. A larger part of me keeps pointing at the listing with my couch, at the fines on my ledger, and at the fact that my quiet apartment now has a lobby. Money Central is not just a tag and a prompt. It is where I live. It is also where I breathe. I cannot breathe in a living room that is an on-ramp to a side business I never agreed to. Am I the jerk for changing my Wi-Fi, adding a smart lock to my bedroom, and telling Cal I will involve the landlord and city enforcement if he does not remove Airy and the listing within 24 hours, even though he says I am gatekeeping housing and should be flexible? Comment 1. Not the jerk. You are the leaseholder and on the hook for fines and termination. Keep everything in writing, attend the walkthrough, and forward the listing to City STR enforcement. Smart lock and Wi-Fi change are basic risk control. Comment 2. This is not compassion. It is a revenue scheme that risks your tenancy. Stop accepting partials. Require all payments by a set date, in full, and through traceable methods. You are doing the right thing. Update 2. The compliance walkthrough was Tuesday at 9 a.m. Ms. Patel arrived with a clipboard in the same calm that has become my life raft. Cal was not home. Ari was. He stood in the hallway like a bouncer and said he was in the shower 5 minutes ago, so the bathroom is messy. Ms. Patel nodded and said she was inspecting for lease compliance, not towel folding. She took photos of the living room, my art, my floor lamp, the couch that strangers have started to call cozy in my nightmares. She asked Ari for his full name to check against applications. He said, "It is complicated." She wrote, "refused," and moved on. Cal texted during the walkthrough. He wrote that he had a lead on a side gig and would be home by lunch to discuss like adults. Ms. Patel asked me to forward all messages to her, then asked me to open the utilities app. Gas and power were both 30 days past due. Water was within a week. Everything is in my name because that is how we set it up. When I moved in, I had been waiting for Cal's half before I paid, trying to teach both of us that deadlines are not pretend. The app showed a red banner. I had never seen shutoff scheduled for Friday. I stared at the screen while Ms. Patel took a photo of the notice next to my ID, so no one later could say it was a mock-up. By noon, she emailed a formal cure or quit to me as leaseholder for unauthorized occupants, nuisance, and suspected short-term rental. 10 days to cure or the tenancy could be terminated. Fines posted to my ledger. She attached screenshots of a listing already live with 5 reviews and dates blocked out for the next 2 weekends. One review mentioned a great host named Cal and said the place sleeps 6 comfortably. I counted the cushions on my couch and felt something in my chest wrinkle. I forwarded everything to my own email in case my brain later tried to tell me it had been a bad dream. That afternoon, Marco, the downstairs neighbor, knocked with his phone. He had posted a note in the lobby asking weekend guests to double-check the apartment number. 2 men had still tried his door with a code that did not work. Then my door, then stood in the hall arguing about whether the host had confirmed early check-in. Marco filmed the exchange and captured one man reading aloud from a message that says, "Enter by keypad, 2nd floor unit on the right. Ignore the neighbor if he says it is the wrong door." The message was from Ari. The video made my mouth taste like pennies. Marco sent it to me and to Ms. Patel. He is the kind of neighbor who does not raise his voice, but also does not let strangers measure his lock with their eyes. Cal came home at 6 in a rush of energy and pronouncements. He said he could fix the fines by offering 3 extra nights to make the listing reviews pop. He said the platform would boost us to Superhost if we hit 10 stays. He said I needed to stop acting like a cop and start acting like a partner. I put the cure or quit on the table between us and told him utilities were past due and that I had paid them at 4 p.m. to protect my credit. I told him I removed his access to autopay on my accounts and that all future utility payments must be in full by the 25th directly to me. No partials. He called me greedy. He said utility companies do not care who pays. I said credit bureaus care. He said credit was a construct. I said a construct that buys you housing matters. He posted another story on his social about me gatekeeping housing and exploiting friends during a cost of living crisis. A few of his friends dogpiled my name in a neighborhood forum. One of them posted my building and the general intersection with a caption that said, "Beware this guy. I did not sleep that night in the way you do not sleep when your front door has become a suggestion. I moved my laptop into my locked room and set my phone to do not disturb, then lay awake listening for suitcase wheels in the hall." In the morning, Ms. Patel forwarded an email from City Short-Term Rental Enforcement asking for a statement and any proof of unapproved hosting. I sent them everything. Screenshots, timestamps, Marco's video, my purchase receipt for the smart lock on my bedroom with the date after the first suitcase guest Cal's draft listing with my art in the background, the live listing with my hallway mirror and my coat. I am good at assembling packets. It is one of the few things making me feel like a person and not a landline in a public lobby. Meanwhile, Cal paid me $80 toward utilities with a note that said, "Token of good faith." I rejected the payment and wrote that partials are no longer accepted full amount by the 25th. I copied Ms. Patel. He replied with a long text about how I am turning him into the police instead of helping a brother survive. He wrote, "You think money solves everything." I wrote, "Money does not solve everything, but unpaid bills ruin credit and credit is housing." He wrote, "You sound like a bank." I wrote, "I sound like a lease." The shutoff notice sat in my mind like a time bomb. I paid each utility in full. It felt like buying back air from a person who thinks air is communal. Until a bill arrives, I set calendar reminders for the next due dates and move the apps to a folder called Survival, because that is how my brain works when panic wants to rearrange my folders for me. Midweek, Ms. Patel posted warning notices at the lobby and elevator about unapproved hosting. She disabled the package locker for our unit and changed the common door code. Cal accused me of snitching. I told him snitching requires a secret. You publish the address and photos and let strangers try our doors. He said the landlord never checks. I said, she just did. Online, the chorus got louder. Someone suggested I let people sleep in the living room because compassion is more important than leases. I do not want to be the kind of person who hides behind paper to avoid empathy. I also do not want to be the kind of person who uses empathy to launder a business that is eating my home. Comment 1. You are doing exactly what you should. Stop taking partials, funnel all communication to email, document every violation, and keep working with the manager and city STR enforcement utilities paid to protect your credit was the right call. Comment 2. People are struggling. Maybe let him host a couple weekends to get back on his feet. Your place looks nice. OP reply. I have already subsidized months of utilities, and I am being fined for illegal hosting in my unit. Letting him host teaches him that breaking rules gets rewarded. I will help someone move, loan a tool, or share a meal. I will not risk my housing or credit. Update 3. I had a 2-day work trip booked since before Cal arrived. I considered canceling. Ms. Patel said the compliance walkthrough and the cure or quit were in motion. City STR enforcement had my packet, and I should not let a bad roommate wreck my job. I locked my bedroom with the smart lock, took photographs of the room as it was, and left on Thursday morning with my suitcase and a pit in my stomach. Friday night, Marco texted while I was at the hotel. 3 men with roller bags tried his door at 10:18 p.m., then my door at 10:20, then stood in the hall while one read a message aloud. Use the code on the keypad, second floor on the right. If neighbor says wrong unit, he is just jealous. The message was from Ari. I forwarded the video to Ms. Patel and city enforcement. Ms. Patel replied that she would post another warning to the building and note the time for her file. I lay in a neat hotel room and felt homesick for a home that currently felt like an airport. I got back Saturday afternoon. The second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The apartment smelled like sprayed cologne and frying oil. There were folded towels stacked hotel-style on the credenza I bought with my own money. I walked down the hall to my room and felt my chest go cold. My door was gone. In its place hung a beige curtain on a spring rod. The smart lock sat on the dresser inside, detached. My mattress was missing. My art was still on the wall, but the bed was now in the living room, made up with the same towels, flanked by my floor lamp and a little welcome note in Ari's handwriting. Please remove shoes. Be mindful of neighbors. For a full minute, I did nothing. Then I filmed everything. The missing door, the curtain, the empty bed frame, the living room staged like a listing photo, the welcome note. Cal came out of the kitchen with a smile like I had surprised him at his job and said, "You are back early." I asked where my mattress was. He said, "It is in the living room to increase capacity for a week or two." I asked where my door was. He said, "The curtain is a vibe and doors are aggressive." I said the words unlawful entry, interference with quiet enjoyment, and STR violations slowly so my brain would stop trying to protect me from reality. I called Ms. Patel and put her on speaker. She asked one question first. Did you authorize the removal of your bedroom door? I said no. She asked if I had a video of the current setup. I said yes, and sent it while we were on the call. Her voice stayed level. She said she would issue a 24-hour notice of entry for Monday, plus a formal notice to terminate for unauthorized subletting, nuisance, and safety violations under the lease. She told me to call non-emergency police to document the unauthorized removal of the door and the staging of beds for hosting. She said to keep my voice low and my hands empty. 2 officers came within 30 minutes. They were matter of fact. I showed them the lease clause about no subletting and no extra occupants, the cure or quit, the city email, the listing screenshots, and my video of the missing door. One officer took photos, then told Cal that removing a co-occupant's interior door and moving their property without consent can be treated as unlawful interference. and that short-term rentals without authorization violate city rules and the lease. The officer told Cal and Ari that any further bookings would be documented and cited. They asked me if I wanted to make a property theft report for the missing mattress. I said I wanted it returned to my room and the door reinstalled today. Cal tried to Darvo the scene. He told the officers that I had changed the Wi-Fi and added a lock to keep him from his own home. He said I was running a lockout. The officers looked at my intact front door, the common areas full of strangers' suitcases, and the curtain where a door should be. One officer said, "Sir, a bedroom lock is normal. Removing doors and staging beds is not." Ari muttered that I am classist. I said I am a leaseholder. The officer told Ari to stop speaking unless he wanted to add his full name to the report. Ari closed his mouth. I wrote a dated letter while the officers stood in the doorway. Immediate cease of STR activity. Removal of all listings within 1 hour. Return of my mattress to my room within 2 hours. The original door reinstalled today, or funds provided for same-day replacement and installation by a licensed handyman, scheduled by me. Back utilities due in full by the 25th unauthorized occupants to vacate within 24 hours or be submitted to Ms. Patel for approval with rent adjusted. Any failure to comply would result in immediate escalation, termination by landlord, small claims for damages, and a police report for interference. I handed the letter to Cal and emailed a copy to him and Ms. Patel. I am not a lawyer. I am a person who understands that paper beats vibes. Cal said I owed him for staging upgrades. He gestured at my own lamp and my own mattress and said I was lucky he is a natural host. He said the listing had 5 stars and that I was ruining his livelihood. I said this is not a livelihood. It is a lease violation that puts my tenancy at risk. He said I should be flexible. I said my flexibility ends where my credit begins. He stalled on the mattress. I asked the officers if they would remain while it was moved. They agreed. We carried my mattress back down the hall. It fit through the door frame that had no door. I set it on the bed frame and filmed the re-entry. Then I propped the smart lock back in place on the jamb so the curtain would at least hang in front of my room. Overnight, it felt like putting a seatbelt on a chair. That night, 2 more guests arrived. Cal swore they were friends who had already booked, and he could not refund them. I told them the listing violated the building and city rules, and there would be no stay. One tried to plead. The other looked annoyed and left. I filmed the conversation and sent it to Ms. Patel in city enforcement. Ms. Patel replied with the notice to terminate, effective in 3 days, for repeated violations. She said the sheriff would supervise move-out if necessary, and that I should secure my valuables and keep a packed bag in case the weekend got loud. It did. At midnight, someone pounded on the door. Marco texted me, "Do you need me to call?" I said no because the officers had already been once, and I did not want to be the person who burned out neighbors. With constant requests, I sat on my bed and listened to suitcase wheels roll away down the hall. Then I wrote this update because if I do not narrate what is happening, the chorus outside my door will narrate it for me. Tomorrow I will file small claims for back rent, utilities, posted fines, the locksmith, the door replacement, and the cost of 2 nights I will spend at a cheap hotel if tonight turns into chaos. Ms. Patel says City STR enforcement has already issued a citation and requested the platform remove the listing. I am going to make oatmeal and drink water and keep my voice low. Paper, not vibes. Rules, not a feed. Comment. 1. You handled this perfectly. Police documentation, manager notice, and written ultimatum with clear timelines. File small claims now and include door removal, hotel costs, utilities, and posted fines. Ask the court for immediate possession support to the landlord. Comment 2. Screenshot everything, including the curtain and welcome note. Buy and install a solid core door with a keyed knob if Cal stalls. Then send the invoice with your claim. You are not the jerk. You are protecting your housing and credit. Update 4. Sunday morning felt like a hotel lobby that forgot it is also a home. I made coffee and opened my email like it was a storm door. Ms. Patel had already sent 3 messages. First, common door codes changed at 7 a.m. Second, package locker access disabled for our unit because guests kept fishing for parcels. Third, fines posted to my ledger per the lease for each confirmed short-term rental night. The total felt like a bowling ball on my chest. I forwarded everything to my small claims folder and added a tab called Damages and Fines. City short-term rental enforcement moved faster than I expected. An officer emailed asking to schedule a call and attached a citation issued to the host account tied to our address. 10 minutes later, the platform removed the listing with a plain notice. Listing violates local law and platform policy. I did not cheer. I printed it and slid it into the packet because paper has become the only music I trust. Cal woke at noon and tried to argue that the fines were my fault for making noise with management. He called me a narc. I said the neighbors sent videos and the listing had my couch in it. He pivoted to hardship and the crisis and friends needing floors. I told him the listing is down, utilities must be paid by the 25th, Ari must leave today, and all bookings are canceled. He announced that he would host privately through word of mouth. I replied in writing that any unapproved occupant is a violation and that the notice to terminate had already been issued. He laughed and said landlord's bluff. I copied Ms. Patel and city enforcement on a single-line email. Cal intends to continue unapproved hosting off platform. She replied with 2 words that set my pulse back to normal. Noted, documented. By Monday, Ms. Patel's 24-hour notice of entry posted on our door. She arrived with a handyman and a clipboard. The handyman photographed the hinge scars where my bedroom door had been, measured, and said he could source a standard blank and install by end of day if I authorized the cost I did. Ms. Patel walked the living room and recorded scuffs, towel stacks, a laminated house rules sheet in Ari's handwriting, and 2 metal suitcase stands. She wrote suspected commercial use and underlined it twice. Cal tried to talk over her shoulder. She asked him to step back so her video captured the room. He sulked and kicked a suitcase stand. The sound made everyone blink. I filed small claims that afternoon for unpaid utilities, posted fines, door removal and replacement, locksmith, and 2 hotel nights if needed. Marco provided a witness statement with dates and short descriptions. He does not write much, but he writes cleanly. Tried my door 10:18 p.m. Wrong code, tried upstairs door 10:20 p.m. Message read aloud from Ari instructing to ignore neighbor. I attached screenshots, timestamps, the cure or quit, the notice to terminate, and the city citation. I paid the filing fee like it was an investment in my future sleep. On Wednesday, the judge granted immediate possession to the landlord upon expiration of the termination period. Ms. Patel scheduled the supervised move-out for Friday morning. She posted the notice with the time window. I took the day off work and moved anything valuable into my locked room. I also emptied the hall closet and reclaimed the supplies that had been behind Ari's added lock. The padlock was cheap. The handyman cut it off with my authorization and added the cost to my ledger for claim later. Thursday night was quiet in the strangest way. No suitcase wheels. No voices testing their volume against the hallway. Cal stayed in his room, door closed, music low. Ari moved between rooms like a person deciding which chair to steal. At midnight, I heard drawers open and close a dozen times and pictured spoons being counted. I slept with my phone under the pillow and my shoes by the bed. It was not fear, it was readiness. The sheriff's car arrived at 9:12 a.m. 2 deputies stood in our doorway with Ms. Patel and the handyman. The lead deputy explained the process in a steady voice. You have 20 minutes to gather personal items. No removal of fixtures or property belonging to the unit or to the other tenant. Disputes about ownership are civil and can go to small claims. Cal tried a speech about community and the right to share space. The deputy repeated the timeline. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Ari vanished 15 minutes before the window even began. He left 2 towel stacks and a laminated rules card. Cal packed loudly, performing indignation. He tried to unscrew the bracket from my curtain rod. The deputy told him to stop. He tried to take the suitcase stands. Ms. Patel told him those belonged to whomever bought them. He left them. He put a dent in the hall wall with a duffel and did not apologize. He walked out without looking at me. The door closed. The building became a place again. We walked the unit together. Ms. Patel logged a hole where a hinge had been ripped out, scuffs, a broken closet padlock, and the smell of cologne that will probably linger forever. The handyman installed my new door and a basic keyed knob. I took a slow breath and tested the swing. It did not stick. He handed me 2 keys and said, "Keep one at work." It was such a practical sentence that I almost cried. 2 weeks later, judgment entered in small claims for back rent share, utilities, posted fines, locksmith, door replacement, and filing fees Cal did not show. Ms. Patel testified about the fines. Marco's statement did what 3 videos could have done. The court clerk helped me file for wage garnishment when Ms. Patel identified Cal's employer on a copy of a letter he left on the counter by mistake. The first garnishment notice arrived a month after that. It is not much. It is not nothing. It lands like a calendar event you do not dread. I moved my bed a few inches and hung a print above the headboard. The new door closes with a firm click. I keep hearing that click in my head when I brush my teeth at night. It sounds like safety. It sounds like a rule that finally belongs to me again. Comment 1. Textbook execution. Manager coordination, city enforcement, documentation, small claims, and sheriff supervised move-out. Great job authorizing the door immediately and adding costs to your claim. Keep copies of every check from garnishment. Comment 2. Your instinct to keep everything in writing saved you. Enjoy the click of that new door. Consider renter's insurance identity theft coverage since your Wi-Fi and network saw strangers. Proud of how you handled this without burning bridges to the neighbors. Final update, 9 months later. 9 months is a long time and also not long at all. I moved into a smaller 1-bedroom in the same neighborhood. It is not trendy. It has a porch that faces a small tree and a kitchen with a light that does not hum. The rent is less than my old share in the 2-bedroom. My budget fits again. I track in the same spreadsheet I used when everything was loud. But now the cells feel like quiet boxes instead of emergency flares. The garnishment hits every month. It is not enough to feel like victory, but it is consistent. The judgment will take time. I file each payment in a folder labeled recovery and let the numbers climb step by small step. Ms. Patel relisted the old unit with a stricter addendum. No subletting, no extra occupants, no short-term rentals, and a clause that allows immediate termination for hosting violations. She added a line I like more than I expected. Bedroom doors may not be removed for any reason. It looks absurd on paper. It is the sentence that would have saved me 3 weeks of nausea. City enforcement closed their file after the platform removal and the citation. The fines are paid. My credit survived. Utilities are now on auto pay from my own account. Only I no longer accept partials from anyone for anything. Pay in full by the date or it is a no. I do not say that to be hard. I say it because boundaries are the only way my nervous system feels like it is allowed to rest. Marco and I nod when we pass. He still sends me photos when people with suitcases look lost in our block. Old habit, good habit. He never says I told you so. He once left a bag of coffee at my door with a note that said, "For quiet mornings." I left him a thank you card that said, "For filming when it mattered." We are not friends in the brunch sense. We are neighbors who will never ignore a suitcase rolling toward the wrong door again. Cal posted online a few times about being evicted by a roommate and the cruelty of landlords in spirit. He implies I am rich because I bring lunch from home and keep a spreadsheet. He says the city is hostile to hosts who help travelers. He has a new couch in someone else's living room if you read between the lines. He messages me every few months with a proposal for a truce that involves me asking the court to waive the garnishment. I do not reply. I forward anything that looks like contact about the past to Ms. Patel for the file, and then I put my phone down and go water my plant. The best change is not money. It is the way the apartment sounds. I can hear the refrigerator click and the fan turn once after it stops, and the neighbor upstairs walk across their kitchen at 7:15. I sleep through the night. If I wake, it is because of rain. I have not heard suitcase wheels in months. That silence feels like wealth. I kept one rule from the worst week. Whenever something feels like panic, I make a small list. Pay the bill, reply by email, take a photo, drink water. These are not heroic acts. They are the boring backbone that kept the problem from eating my life. They are how I keep a life now. If you want a single image to close this, It is me standing in my doorway one evening, locking the door with a small turn, and feeling the latch kiss the strike plate. Click. Not as a barricade, as a promise. I make dinner, I call my sister, I put my phone face down. I sleep. That is the story. Quiet finally. Quiet finally. Quiet finally. Quiet.